let go of that fear of being canceled. Like, what does canceled even mean, honestly? Unless you can lose your job or something like that, I honestly don't understand. Okay, cancel me. Like, that's great. You don't want to be associated with these people anyway. So, yeah, I think let go of that fear of being canceled. It doesn't mean anything, especially with these labels like transphobic, whatever. They don't mean anything because now it's applied to everything. So it's just meaningless at this point.
What's up, guys? Welcome to Unapologetic. I'm your host, Amala Epinovi, and today we have a very special guest. Her name is Misha Petrov. You might recognize her from her YouTube videos talking about her journey of leaving the left, plus a lot of commentary on the social political events and topics that are happening and trending in today's day and age, plus some Gen Z commentary. Let's get into it. All right, Misha, welcome to the show. We're so happy to have you.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, so we share something in our political journeys and in our ideological journeys, I guess, in that we've both left the left. And I'm curious, let's get into your story. When did that happen to you? What made you leave? And how was that received?
Sure. Well, it wasn't one specific moment of like getting red pilled. I think it definitely happened over time. Gradually, there were definitely a few moments where it really made me, take a step back and say, yeah, am I really on the right side here? But so I was very much on the left. I don't know if this happened to you, but a lot of people said you were never on the left. Like when I publicly came out and said I left the left, they like to say that. They're like, no, you were never on the left. But I kind of wish that was the case. I really did think I was right, though. And I had that social justice warrior mindset all throughout high school. And then I kind of saw The Social Dilemma, and which is a documentary about like big tech and how they tend to recommend you sort of, if I'm on the left, they gave me like woke, sort of lefty, very emotionally charged content, and kind of created the illusion that everyone agrees with me. And so that for me kind of opened my eyes. It's like I'm getting a certain they're kind of manipulating people basically. And there was something about the political polarization of America because of social media. And I really kind of resonated with something they said about friendships being torn apart because of the politics and social media again. So I posted a clip from that, and I got a bunch of my friends who were like, Misha, what does this mean? Like, are you a Trump supporter? Nothing to do with Trump, but I don't know. I guess it's that mentality. Like, if you don't agree with something that the left agrees with, it's like you kind of should be canceled, should be shunned, and friendship should, end because of that.
Jim, could you please inform Andy Bernard that he is being shunned?
Something I didn't agree with. And people, I guess, kind of took that as me, I don't know, kind of saying, yeah, like I'm a Trump supporter. I'm no longer on the left, which is not the case at that time. So yeah, that happened to me. And then at the same time, though, I was thinking, well, there's probably something I don't know. A lot of the time where I kind of started to question things, I'm like, well, they know something I don't know, that they know better. So I still kind of identified as a leftist. I went to university, and then, that was a whole nother experience for me. Like on the first day, I went to the restroom, and there was a man in the restroom. So,
is this allowed? Is that allowed?
Not even not even trying to present female or anything like that. It was just like this 20-year-old guy, kind of like buff and pretty tall as well, in like jeans and a hoodie. And, I was a little bit uncomfortable. I'm sure a lot of the people there were as well. But I kind of had to take a moment. I realized, wow, I can't say anything because if I say something, I'll be labeled transphobic. So that for me was already kind of crazy. And I was thinking to myself, wow, I can't say anything without being labeled a bigot, even if I'm in that uncomfortable situation. So yeah, I also started classes, and it was all politics, even in like math class. Everything was political. Everything was, kind of trying to get oppression points. It seemed like the gender ideologues kind of led the class with all this gender discussion and preferred pronouns, critical race theory in every single class. So it was very, very woke. And yeah, so for me, that was, especially when people start talking about capitalism, how it's like the root cause of their suffering, people identifying as socialists and communists and whatnot. For me, that was kind of the moment where I was like, yeah, no, I cannot do this anymore.
Right.
I'm going to leave this particular university and also like the left in general. So yeah.
I'm curious, did you have a moment when you were sitting in this, because we had something interesting. You experienced it in university. I experienced it actually working for a left-leaning organization, where as soon as you start to think something that's a little bit dissident or a little bit different to what everybody else thinks, you feel like the walls are kind of closing in on you a bit, and you start to notice all these different things around you, and it starts to make you sort of feel like you're suffocating. Is that what you felt when you were in these university classes?
Oh, 100%. And especially, I think this triggers kind of a fight or flight response when you kind of come in contact with a conservative person, for example, when you're, as a former leftist, like I can remember that feeling that you're describing. And it kind of triggers that, and you don't know what to do. And it's very, people, I think that's why people get very angry. It's like they don't expect their beliefs to be challenged at all because we're so used to cancel culture. So it's like, how could you even have that platform? How could you even be allowed to say, to question my beliefs, right? Or challenge me? So I think that might be part of it, why we get like so, get these feelings.
Right. And it seems like you went through a lot of this pretty quietly. Like you were thinking these things, you walked into the bathroom, you saw a full ass man in the bathroom and just went, you know what? I'm just going to walk out of here. What was the moment that you thought, I'm going to go public with this? Because now you run a very successful YouTube channel. How did that happen?
So, I mean, I just knew. It's kind of funny because my entire life I never was afraid of quote getting canceled, right? Like I didn't really care. It's just if I believed in what I believe in now, even being in high school and in university, I would be public about it. I would talk about it. I wouldn't really care. It's just that I was on the left. I really thought what I was doing was righteous, and my voice mattered. I had to educate people that weren't on the left because that means that they're automatically racist, sexist, homophobic, whatever the case may be. So, it's like now I have this platform and I know that people are, willing to listen and other people are experiencing something similar. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to share that and go public with it. So it just kind of happened that I left, and also I started to become more conservative, and I just thought it would be good to share my story. So.
Amazing. And obviously it has been good because many people have resonated with the things that you're saying. When you talk about being on the left and truly wanting to keep hold of that ideology, I relate so hard. Even when I was disagreeing mentally and I had to face it, something in my brain was like, no, this is the right thing to do. This is the right group of people to associate with. You're doing the right thing. You're going to change the world. And now when I hear that, I think about how narcissistic it truly was of me to think that. And you talk at length about, labeling yourself and the left giving way to really high trait narcissism when it comes to their ideology and the way they think about the world. And I'm wondering if you could unpack that for us, because a lot of people will hear that and say, how dare you think that I'm a narcissist? I'm actually so altruistic. I'm trying to help the oppressed. So how does that give way to narcissism for you?
Yeah, so I can't even get mad at those people that say, I'm doing the right thing. Because again, I was there, been there, done that. I understand that mentality. And you think you're fighting for insert marginalized group of people. But I think that people get so attached to whatever label or identity. Now I think everyone's obsessed with sexualities and I guess gender identities. And again, like been there, done that. We used to circulate through different labels, and because it's like the trendy thing to like come out as bi one day, gay another day, because you get applauded for it, right? And I think the thing is that people get so attached to it and it becomes their entire personality, their entire identity. So I think that, and then the narcissism comes into play when you kind of force everyone around you to affirm that identity and expect that of everybody. So if someone dares like question, hey, how are you identifying as neither a man or a woman? That's automatically, I don't know, transphobic, homophobic, whatever, because they feel entitled that everyone has to affirm that. Everyone has to agree, no questions asked. And if you're not part of that, community, let's say LGBTQ community, you have no right to really speak on that because you don't have that same like lived experience, right? Like this is what I was this is taught to me. So it's like, if you're white, for example, you can't talk about racism because you don't know what it's like to be a Black person. Also, if you're straight, you can't talk about LGBTQ issues because you don't know that experience. So I think, that's where that narcissism is, because they think that everyone has to agree with it, no questions asked.
Right. I take such issue with all labels, and we'll get into whether or not like you label yourself as conservative or you're anti-label in that sense as well. But when I hear you even say like LGBTQ community, I'm like, what does that even mean? Because there's a bunch of different people who, have all these different sexualities and all these different individual experiences. And I found when I was on the left, I would just look at people and go, okay, what's this person's race? What's this person's gender? Let me try to figure out what their sexuality is. And I had already created a caricature of who that person was before I'd even spoken one word to them. And I think that's the true narcissism, at least that I was facing, because I was an individual. I had all these different facets to my personality, all these different likes and dislikes. There was so much interesting about me. But if I saw a white man, he was just a white man, and he's probably racist, he's probably bigoted, and that's what it gave way to. So as far as labels are concerned now, do you label yourself as anything? Do you just sort of sit floating, what do they call it, politically homeless now?
Yeah. I guess in a way I am, because I really hate labels, just like you. I really don't like it. And a lot of my beliefs are more moderate, really. Of course, I lean right, but I wouldn't say I'm extreme in any of my beliefs. So I don't really make it a point to label myself. I don't really think it's necessary. I'm sure people can just listen to what I have to say and they can make up their mind, whatever that makes me. But, I've said some things in videos and people go, that's something a leftist would say. It's like, well, so what? I can't say it because I have to keep this label of left, right. Like, no, I think that's silly. So and I just don't really think labels are that important.
I mean, I recently got into it with Dennis Prager on his show, and he talked about how it's so important for conservatives to call themselves conservative and to really take on the label of conservative. And I just looked at him and I was like, you know what? Why? Because for a long time I was a leftist and I ran with the leftist label. And then after that I was a conservative, and then it became the conservative label. And I found when I was having conversations with people, the second that you give yourself a label and you say, I am this, they have already painted a picture in their head of what that means for you and what that means that you think and you feel. And a lot of people might look at you and your YouTube channel and say, oh, well, Misha's a conservative. And it paints this whole picture of what your belief system is already without them even listening to your videos. And when you listen to your videos, you're pretty in the center of things. You're pretty mild, moderate, and you like to give a good faith argument for both sides. Why do you think it's so important to give a good faith argument for both sides?
Because I could easily go back to that leftist sort of mentality where we are on the right side of things. It doesn't matter if you try to challenge our beliefs a little bit, because we are all right, basically. Like there's no arguing there. And that's why I think it's so important to always question, even like what I'm saying now, like leave room for debate and discussion with people in the comments, for example. Like that's what I love about being more right-leaning now. I've noticed that conservative people are more open-minded and willing to have discussions with people that don't agree with them on everything, or try to find common ground. I think when I was on the left, I hardly ever saw that. So if like you don't agree with everything, then you deserve to be canceled and shunned, because like, let's say you don't think 10-year-olds should be given access to hormones or surgeries or something like that. Well, you're transphobic, so you don't even deserve a platform. You should be banned off the internet. Whereas with conservatives, I do think that they're more likely to listen to you. And of course, there are extremes in both sides, but that's just been my experience. And what you said with like labeling, conservative or whatever. You also said, what did you say? Cis, like straight white male, right? That's what I used to hear that a lot. Like that's the worst thing you can be, a cis straight white male. And it's like, if that's their label, then they don't even deserve to speak on anything, pretty much. Like that's the most evil thing ever.
Your identity, this like stupid superficial identity starts to cancel out your opinion as a complete, unique, individual human being. And it seems like, for me, social media has exacerbated the problem like 100-fold. It's insane. So I am curious as to like, what is your relationship with social media? I regrettably, I consider myself to be sort of chronically online. And it's probably, by virtue of doing this job, you kind of have to keep up with
Yeah.
everything that's going on all the time. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
definitely chronically online.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you relate to?
Yeah, I mean, I try to put the phone down for some
Mm-hmm.
time. I have pretty good, I'm self-disciplined in that way where I kind of recognize, okay, enough is enough. I kind of, in
Yeah.
a way, hate technology. It's so funny. Like, yes, this is what I do, but it can be so toxic. And, I of course I have to look at the trends and things like that, but I think there needs to be a balance, and especially with social media, and these echo chambers that we can find ourselves in. It doesn't matter if you're left or right. I think that's why, like, I try to get through woke videos sometimes and listen to people on the other side, even if I completely disagree with them. It's like I don't want my For You page to be conservative this, conservative that, like everything conservative, because then how am I better than what I was on the left?
Right. I'm
Yeah.
so hyper cognizant of that. I'll be like scrolling on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok or whatever.
Yeah.
And if I see a video that like I know I want to watch, but I know it's only going to feed me more of, I'll just like
Yeah.
skip it because I know it's just going to give me more and more and more in this endless
Right.
feedback loop. And I feel like that's something that Gen Z is maybe catching on to, but maybe not
Mm-hmm.
quite. Like we're so blasé about being on the internet and just allowing it to take grasp of our life. And you talk a lot about Gen Z and how this entire generation is being affected by culture and social media. And I wonder if you're optimistic as to
Mm-hmm.
how this generation is going to pan out. I personally am, but it
Mm-hmm.
seems like there's a lot of obstacles.
Yeah, I mean, I'm optimistic about it just because if I can change, I feel like anyone can change, especially
Mm.
younger people, because their brains are malleable, and that could be a great thing. That could also be a horrible thing. But I do believe that people can change and realize, I'm being fed the same content over and over again. There's another side to things. I have to be okay with debating people and having different opinions, and not be so obsessed with the victim hierarchy of things, and just constantly talking about how am I oppressed, intersectionality, and all these crazy things. So I
Mm-hmm.
am optimistic about it. At the same time, though, I think things like TikTok, it's just getting worse and worse with dividing people, and also, I talk a lot about like the trans ideology and how it's impacting children. And I think that it's getting worse, in my opinion, with TikTok, because there's a lot of misinformation, and it can be a dangerous place for kids. So
Yeah, I don't know if you saw I think 60 Minutes did a special about TikTok and the different ways that TikTok is shaped and framed in China
mhm.
versus the United States.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, isn't that wild? It's like
it's
China is only
crazy.
allowing kids to be on TikTok for a certain amount of time. It's basically all educational content.
Educational.
It's
Hmm.
pro nationalism. Whereas
Hmm.
here in the United States, we're getting like drugs, sex,
Drugs, sex, yeah.
garbage force
Uh-huh.
fed to us. And
Yeah.
I know you're seeing like with young women today, this
Hmm.
culture of like being chronically online, crying on the internet and having mental breakdowns, getting a
Yeah.
bunch of like plastic surgery, Botox filler,
Mm-hmm.
OnlyFans. How have you safeguarded yourself? Like, what is your process for not letting this inundate your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way that I was raised really helps me here, because I could watch that all day long and I'm not going to fall victim to that. That's just
Yeah.
who I am as a person. Like, even being on the left, I was never on board with hookup culture, and I think it keeps getting worse and worse with things like TikTok promoting things like OnlyFans. You don't need that degree. Just get an OnlyFans. You're going to get rich super quick, and get tons and tons of
Yeah.
money. And I think that if you're an adult and you want to do that, that's more power to you. But this is being promoted to young, impressionable, like teenage girls, which I think is a problem. So that, along with hookup culture and having to be sexually promiscuous equals empowerment, I think that's an issue here as well.
Yeah, I would have never expected something like OnlyFans to take off. Not because I
Hmm.
didn't think we were like in this hypersexualized society, but I didn't think people were willing to pay that amount of money for just random girls on the internet when we live in a society where virtually all of that is free and you can get it at the
Yeah.
click of a button anyways. So it's so wild. I was like looking up stats. How many people are using OnlyFans? It
Hmm.
says according to smallbusinessblog.net, 7 million fans spend money on OnlyFans every single month.
My
Every
God.
single month, the 7 million people are spending money on OnlyFans. And it says that the average creator, and this is what really blew my mind, because I'm sure you've seen on TikTok all these girls saying, oh, this is your sign to get on OnlyFans. I actually have a TikTok here that we can show.
Show us how. Look at where you came from. Look at you now. Zuckerberg and Gates.
And they took the piss that I made $400, and now I make $1,400 in just 48 hours. And this girl talking about starting an OnlyFans out of curiosity. And now she made her rent in 4 days.
Oh my gosh.
So it's like, I see all these TikToks of girls promoting this stuff. This got 121,000 likes. The other one got 40,000 likes on it. And then you look up, what is the average person actually making on OnlyFans? And it's like $150 a month. So you have these girls just being tricked into selling their bodies online for nothing.
Yeah. And then plus the irony of it, they say we should never objectify women. And then they're like, yeah, get an OnlyFans, sell photos of your body that, you're never going to get that back too. Especially being young, and we have like younger teenagers wanting to do this. Like they probably don't even want to wait till they're 18. They just want to start because it's presented as such an amazing, opportunity. Pay your rent, So
yeah. Don't objectify women. Men don't objectify women. Only if women objectify themselves first. And now you're seeing these massive creators on social media who are just famous beyond belief, and their main income source is OnlyFans, which if you want to make that decision for yourself, make that decision for yourself and do what you want to do. Like, I'm not going to step in front of anybody's freedom to do what they want freely on the internet, but also be for real. Like, be real about how this can affect a young person. And I don't see a lot of people who do this for a living being super real about actual mental health effects, what it means in the long term for you, the fact that your digital footprint is never going to go away, and how much is that actually worth for you? And then you mix that in with like the mental health crisis that I guess this generation is going through. And I'm curious, like, do you see Gen Z going through a mental health crisis, or do you think that a lot of it is just glorification of mental health problems?
Oh, yeah. I actually think it's a bit of both. I think more and more people in Gen Z are, more anxious, more depressed. I think that it has a lot to do with social media. I mean, just think about it. Like, if you're going to be online for 8 hours a day, a majority of your day is spent scrolling through TikTok and numbing your mind completely. Of course, there's going to be some psychological damage. Like, that's not normal, right? We're not meant to do that. So I think that plays a huge role. But also we have, again, with TikTok, and not just TikTok, the glorification of all these mental illnesses, people pretending to have mental illnesses like Tourette's and what is the other one? DID seem to be popular to pretend to have. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I just did like a quick check this morning, and I just went on TikTok search bar and typed in mental breakdown. And it was crazy what you see pop up. I mean, like, just to show, there's like multiple young women looking basically all within Gen Z, just crying openly on the internet.
How are you? I'm okay. If I ever lose my battle to depression, know that I fought. Know that I tried. Know I did my best to overcome.
Social media has really gone through this cycle of just changing and shifting, because social media that I remember when I was first introduced to like Instagram when I was 14 years old or something like that was like Alexis Ren on the beach in her bikini and like travel couples and all this stuff, and a highlight reel of your life. And then it was like, the highlight reel is fake. We know that it's fake. Let's call them out for their lives not being like that. Let's talk about going to therapy, and let's talk about our family lives, and let's talk about our boyfriend who cheated on us, and then let's cry on the internet. And now it's like, if you want to be a social media influencer, not only do you have to paint this like beautiful life that people can live vicariously through, but you also have to show every single hardship and every single time you cry on the internet, which is just like your whole life is online at that point.
No, I think it's great to promote therapy for those that need it, but at the same time, don't treat TikTok as your therapist. Like there's no reason to be going into detail about a bad date that you just had or whatever issue you're going through to thousands of people that you're not even going to get that video back in case you change your mind later on. And I think that that's an issue. Also, it's kind of like normalizing things that should just not be normalized in terms of
Right.
mental illness, because then if I tell you it's totally fine to have like 5 mental breakdowns a day, a lot of people have that, and then we kind of try to normalize that, then those people will be less likely to actually go seek help and go like try to change themselves for the better. The only thing
Right.
we're going to get from that is people thinking they're being politically correct, and then those same people struggling are still going to struggle. They're not going to go get help, and they're just going to think, yeah, this is normal, because we're trying to normalize it. So
Yeah, it's normal and it's good because I get likes on the internet for doing
yeah.
it. So then it's like, how can I feed into this more? How can I make myself more
Mm-hmm.
upset? Like I can't imagine, first of all, crying and then being like, I'm going to set up my camera,
Mm-hmm.
then I'm going to stop crying, then I'm going to edit the videos of me crying, then I'm going to put sad music over those videos, and then I'm going to caption it and post it on the internet. And then when you get a million likes on that, of
Yeah,
course you're going to like want to do it more and more and more and more
of
and
course.
more. So
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to be said for prior generations not really caring about mental health at all
Mm-hmm.
and never having that discussion. But now we've just sort of overcorrected and we're
Yeah.
doing too much.
Guys, it's too much. Excuse me, it's too much.
Yeah, I think we are normalizing the mental illness itself when we should be normalizing getting help, going to therapy,
Yeah,
right? Two different things.
100%. So how does it feel? Because you are a woman who is online, pretty open about your views. How have things been received for you? Because it's a pretty
Mm-hmm.
polarized and divisive culture to
Mm-hmm.
be putting your views into. Has it been really well received?
Yeah, honestly, it really has. I get a bunch of messages from people saying, I've experienced something very similar. I'm in a woke university right now, and it's very difficult. And you've kind of given me a little bit more confidence to speak up about what I think, what I believe in. So that's always amazing to hear. And see like these discussions taking place in like the comment section, for example, people with different beliefs. So I think it's been well received. I think the only like the haters, I guess, people that are just really, really hate my channel,
Yeah.
always non-binary people. I swear to God, I don't know what it is. Like, I swear to you.
Because didn't you make a video about it like not making sense?
Yes, but that was because of all of these DMs that I was getting from
That's
people.
hilarious.
And they are so angry. They get so, so angry. It's like, I don't even know. They just want to fight all the time, 24/7. And this is where I get the majority of the hate from, is from people who identify, I go by they, them today. Tomorrow it's she, her. The next day it's whatever. And just, there's a look to them. You can kind of identify who these people are. So yeah, that's where I I get most of the people who don't
Yeah.
enjoy my channel. But
I wonder why. Do you think it's because, like, I don't know that you sit and think about why you get all this hate from these people, but do you think it's because they're just going through something internally that has just
Mhm.
got them all over the place, that they feel the need to, like, you have to accept this, you have to accept this?
Yeah, 100%. And I can never get mad at these people. Like for a majority of these super woke individuals, I cannot be mad because I see myself in a lot of them. I
Yeah.
see I was on the left, I was angry, I was miserable. You're constantly thinking the world is out to get you, and you're trying to find injustice in everything, right? You try to see homophobia and sexism in places that it's just not there. But I think that without like someone to cancel or something to fight about, like they have no purpose. So, and because I was there, been there, done that again.
Yeah.
So I can understand that. I don't get mad. And I think that's why they do it, because they kind of identify with that label so much. So like they feel like they have to protect it.
Right. I think in the mix of all this polarization with the left and versus the right, and conservatives, whatever, it's just gonna be centrism that is really going to shine through. And that's where I really think the future of discourse is going to go, because I don't think any of this fighting is sustainable. And the more that people come and hate on you, I mean, the more they look ridiculous as soon as you watch one of your videos where you're giving just a fair shake for everybody involved in whatever topic that you're talking about. I mean, even trans age people, you've done a video on them and you've given them, which is wild, by the way. That is wild. And I can't believe that that's growing.
I know. I thought it was maybe the one guy that I talked about from like 7 years ago, something like that, who identified as a 6-year-old girl. But no, it's become, people are now age fluid. They go in between ages, and if they feel like they're 5 years old, they are 5 years old. We should affirm that identity. And again, like, it's normalizing something so abnormal that really should not be normalized. It's sexualizing children. We shouldn't be okay with that at all. And we have these like adult babies who are putting on diapers, drinking out of a bottle. They have like caretakers, which are normally their partners. So there's already like a sexual, relationship there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just not, I don't think it should be normalized at all. And even then, like, I ask myself, like, am I missing something? Should this be normalized? And I don't think so.
Yeah, so. I will say centrism is the future, but not with that discussion.
Right.
I'm not in the center on that one. Yeah, no. It's just get out of here. It's just straight to jail.
Right to jail, right away.
Literally.
So yeah, I think it's just so weird to think about where this is going to go if we don't start having discussions about it, and if we don't just like stand our ground and say, yo, this is not okay, or at the very least, this is very uncomfortable and it needs to be discussed openly. Whereas so many other people are saying, no, you just accept everything or you don't discuss it. Yeah. And then you have the extreme right saying, you don't accept anything whatsoever, and also we're not going to discuss it. So it's hard to just make a space for yourself in this. But when you do, it really, really resonates with people. So I want to know what your tips and tricks are for people who I'm sure come to you a lot and say, I want to start having these conversations. I want to be open about how I feel about these things, but I'm not yet comfortable.
Yeah. Well, I think it can be a bit tricky because it depends on your situation. A lot of people, they have, let's say, a very left-leaning boss, and if they start speaking up about their political beliefs, they could get fired because, we say, this sounds crazy saying this, but it's true. Like, people are getting fired, people are getting arrested in places like the UK, Canada, Norway. People are literally getting arrested for not affirming someone's identity, for example. So speaking up can be very tricky, and not everyone has that privilege to speak up. But if you're in an environment where it's just like your friends, or let's say something like that, and your job isn't on the line, then I think just like let go of that fear of being canceled. Like, what does canceled even mean, honestly? Unless you can lose your job or something like that, I honestly don't understand. Okay, cancel me. Like, that's great. You don't want to be associated with these people anyway. So, I think let go of that fear of being canceled. It doesn't mean anything, especially with these labels like transphobic, whatever. They don't mean anything because now it's applied to everything. So it's just meaningless at this point.
Yeah, it's so true. I did a speech recently at Washington University, and this 15-year-old girl drove out with her father, and she's just the sweetest girl. She came all the way to just see the speech and came up to me after and was just in tears talking about how she's in high school now, and because she's openly conservative or openly expresses her views, all these kids are calling her a white supremacist on a daily basis, and she's just in tears. And in that moment, when you're that age, that is horrifying to be called that publicly at your school, to be labeled that way by all these students. And I just told her, I know that's rough, and I really can't tell you how to unpack your emotions when it comes to that, but I can tell you that it does not mean anything. The more that these words get thrown at you for baseless things that have no foundation in actual truth, the less that they mean. So these people should mean nothing to you as far as their opinion, and the words should mean even less. And I think as soon as people realize that, that's when things are just going to start to level out and reasonable people are going to talk more.
Mm-hmm. 100%. And don't be afraid to lose friends. I get this a lot. Like, I'm afraid to lose my friend group. Well, if your friend group is willing to like excommunicate you and never talk to you again because of your political belief, that's crazy. You don't want friends like that. You want friends who are willing to have open discussions or debates even about politics if that's what you're interested in. So yeah, don't be afraid of losing those types of people. So I don't know.
They're not,
Yeah.
they don't even know who you are anyway. So who are they
Literally.
friends with?
Yeah.
So Misha, of course, I love your stuff. I think you're fantastic.
Thank you.
And I'm wondering where are you at in life now? I know you left the woke school. You're doing other things now. Where can people find you and support what you're doing as well?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm very active on YouTube. I post a lot of, upload a lot of videos. So it's Misha Petrov on YouTube. I'm also pretty active on Instagram, which is real Misha Petrov. So you can follow me there. Yeah.
Amazing. And I'm sure you get a lot of supporters from this because people are just looking for people who are saying what you're saying. And I think what you're doing is great. I hope you keep
so
it up,
much.
and we would love to have you on the show again in the future.
All right. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.